Hello everyone and welcome back. It's Yintan here with my fellow commentator Apothony, and we're going to be bringing you what looks to be a very interesting match. We're talking so much earlier about Armor versus Shield, and it seems like Dreamfleet and Project Mayhem have decided to throw down once for all and show us just what the differences between these two setups are. Down that Dreamfleet composition for us, Apothony.
I would love to. We have two Golden Navy Scorps, one of my favourite tournament ships, followed by two artillery Sleipnirs, two Kirins, those Frigology, and four bombers in Manticores and Nemesis. Tell us about the Project Mayhem team, Jin.
Now, Project Mayhem have actually decided to field their flagship Balgorn in this match, and along with it, a very standard Quad Navy BC core, but then the support here, the support choices they've made are very, very interesting, eschewing the normal bombers for Confessor, Double Vexor, and Purifier. So they're going to bring a lot more DPS, but they're sacrificing a lot of that anti-support, and that might hurt them in this match in particular, just because of how powerful those Kirins and Manticores and also Nemesises are going to be against them. They're going to be able to apply a lot of bomber damage right at the start of the match, unless those Navy Brutixes and Harbingers work their magic.
That's true. I mean, typically we see, a Hyena fall in there, or maybe some Daredevils, even with a Flag Bell on top. You want that redundancy and also the ability to web more than one target in order to control the opposing team in some cases. Immediately see a Purifier getting hit there on the Project Mayhem. It does catch reps. Nemesis, however, for Dreamfleet, those Kirins they're not putting out enough reps to tank, and the first blood goes to Project Mayhem.
Yeah, so one of the key difficulties for the Kirin is the fact that it doesn't have a large rep range, which means that you can't keep these bombers alive in the same way we saw logistics, T2 logistics cruisers do earlier on in this tournament. For example, Yukiko in Brave during the earlier match, and you can see Project Mayhem just evaporating this DPS core. You can see every time one of those drops, and there goes another one, the attack bar just cascades down faster and faster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really not a fan of these kind of more all-in teams. I think if you're running Logifrigs, as Dreamfleet are here, you want to run it Ronin style. You want a versatile, well-thought-out comp that you practice really hard, not just kind of like a meme all-in. It does a bunch of damage, maybe we'll apply some of it, because we are at the level of competition now, especially with the feeder rounds. Even in the first round of the tournament, pretty much everyone is going to be able to deflect just a loose damage all-in without as much thought put behind it.
Yeah, and the Balgorn of Anastasia here tanking very, very well. He went to about 20% armor earlier, but he's managed to rep himself back up. He's got a lot of tank. Obviously, one of the advantages of bringing that flagship is that you get to bring like an X-Type or an officer rep that will just let you keep healthy. If Dreamfleet really wanted to seriously go for that, they would have gone for the Augurer first, I think, and if anything, I think they got debated by that flagship Balgorn right at the start of this match.
Yeah, I mean, like, they tried shooting the Balgorn. It would have been a beautiful headshot that would kind of really hurt Project Mayhem's tournament runs, but, with those bombers dying so quickly, immediately the damage fell off and reps held, even from just an Augurer and the rep bots coming through. Now we see Project Mayhem shooting a Navy Scorp, seeing if they can break through that even with the Kirins alive. With their lack of hard tackle, the Kirins being able to escape the Balgorn for all intents and purposes, though, so far, they are actually kind of at a difficult point in terms of breaking something, because their battle cruisers will struggle to apply to the Kirins. But they then have to shoot, the T2 resists for the slap, or the resist bonus of the end scorp with tons of mids for tank. So they are at a point where it is much more difficult for them to achieve anything against the Dreamfleet comp. We now see them dropping a Confessor here. But now we see finally, with enough force, with enough damage applied, that Navy Scorp is going through armor and into structure, and that is I think that's the pick-off that really clinches the match for them, proving that they can break an end Scorp through reps, through any local tank it might have, through those Kirins, and down it goes.
Yeah, they're still putting some DPS on that battle, and I think that's a fool's game at this point. If they wanted to maximize their chances of winning, they should have blown through that support, the Confessor, the Vexors, the Purifiers, and they've managed to do that now. They've switched off their DPS and they've got it done. And I think another interesting choice that Dreamfleet have made here is going all in on the damage. They have no rep drones for those Navy Scorpions on those Sleipnirs, on those Navy Scorpions, which do have significant drone bays. It's not going to be quite the same as the Typhoon Fleet issues 125 meters cubed, but it's enough to get a decent flight of reps.
Yeah, I mean, this Project Mayhem team I find really interesting. It's an interesting take on the extra shotgun we've been talking about. They've kept the Balgorn, which is so many more points this year, so what do they sacrifice? They could have sacrificed their lower end, or they can sacrifice somewhere else. What they did is they went from a T2 Logi to a T1 Logi, or maybe it was a fake out against the Guardian Aerospan. We can't know until they tell us. You know, that allowed them to get the 2 4-point vectors in, it got them a Purifier, it got them a Confessor, you know, which I'm certain was massively impactful to the killing of the bomber pilots. As a Confessor pilot myself, I love seeing bombers when they pose inside the team. Confessors are fantastic at destroying them, especially shield ones. Now we see both Kirins being caught and going down on the Dreamfleet side, and Project Mayhem are in full cleanup mode.
Yeah, the power of that Balgorn really becoming apparent. Not only did it survive that initial primary, where a standard Balgorn, it would have been shaky. I think it might have still made it, but it would have taken as one slip up from that Balgorn to die. In here, it was perfectly comfortable, and then the newts really coming into their own, turning off the invulns of these Sleipnirs, turning off the invulns of those Navy Scorps, and the webs were so incredibly effective against those Kirins when it came down to it. Even if those Manticores had been something else, this still would have been an incredibly tough match for Dreamfleet, and Project Mayhem executing a very traditional comp with a little bit of a twist here. I think we're going to see a little more of this kind of double Vexor support as we go forward. It's so point efficient and it's so expensive to bring those heavy cores now that just packing more DPS into your comp this way seems to be to the benefit of it. And
yeah, and
here we see a Navy Scorpion taking a match.
To an extent, the Vexors can still fill that support role. You know, it's if you're bringing in an armor comp, you fill out loads of an armor tank, maybe a damage mod, and you know, you've got some mids on the Vexor, right? You know, you've got mids for some tackle, maybe some utility E-War. Like the Vexor
you got high
may
slots
be
as well.
kind of the the Vexor may be the new damp Merlin, right? It was always kind of this utility ship. Maybe put a scram web on it, maybe put some damps on it. The Vexor is kind of seems to be falling into this role where it's fittable for multiple purposes, has a good damage output. As you say, it's very point efficient on that damage, and it's just fitting into lots of different comps this year really nicely. So I'm really excited to see how teams are going to use the Vector in future comps to kind of augment their bottom end. Now we see the second Navy Scorp slowly falling down through the combined damage of the Project Mayhem team, and Dreamfleet are not long to be left in the winners bracket, unfortunately for them. Of course, as with all of the teams today, no one's getting eliminated. They're merely falling into the lower bracket, which is one hell of a slog if you're trying to get through to the final weekends. But for the teams that are a bit younger, a bit less experienced, it gives them a fantastic opportunity to get some of that experience, win a few more skins to make it more worthwhile to enter, make it more worthwhile to put on all the time and effort in. And what beautiful skins we have this year as well.
Yeah, this is just the bouncy castle before the jumping across the spike pit of tomorrow and the later weekends.
So as we see this Sleipnir slowly go down Jintan, tell me, do you have any particular favourite moments from today? Any favourite matches or any favourite pilots?
Oh, Skill Yourself versus... we're not supposed to say that, but that match versus the Ronin was
the team who
amazing.
lacked skill.
The team who shall not be named, who did incredibly well, and I thought that was one of the most interesting matches. I really would like to take some more time and break that down, because just the way they used very interesting ships. You know, both of them out-metering each other with those curses was really interesting to watch. Anyway, it looks like Dreamfleet has been had their dreams thoroughly crushed of a run through the winners bracket, so let's take it back to the studio.
My brother gets off work at 4 o'clock and we're coming down here to kick some mother.
Welcome back, guys. Project Mayhem, taking it as I, Ithagahawk, personally called it against everyone else. I am being smug now. I got that one right. Now, how did that one go for Project Mayhem versus Dreamfleet? Like, what went wrong there for Dreamfleet?
Well, Dreamfleet brought I wouldn't say a traditional combat, it was more of a semi-shield all-in. They brought dual Navy Scorpions, dual Sleipnir and 2 Kirins, so a very core-heavy point cost there, while also bringing bombers. While bombers are quite vulnerable, especially with Logi frigates. I mean, Logi frigates have short range, especially shield ones as well. They end up like 3 kilometers optimal, so they're going to have trouble repping bombers, and obviously they got nuked straight away. They tried to go for the Balgorn headshot, which they almost did, but failed, got that reps in on time, and after that they tried to go in for those weaker ships, so like bombers and cruisers and the like, but they couldn't really break them. And with those four bombers do 500 DPS each, so that's 2,000 DPS just straight out, and all they've got is basically 2 Sleipnirs and 2 Navy Scorps, which is nothing to laugh at. But they just broke a Navy Scorpion under Kirin reps and its local tank. After that, it's pretty much game over at that point.
Yeah, now we should mention this is not Suetonia. Suetonia has left us briefly, as he's actually flying in his very own Alliance Tournament match coming up shortly. So he is left to go get ready and prepare for that. So we will be seeing him back later on. Now, one of the things we saw there is Project Mayhem filled out a couple of their slots with 4-point Vexors. Now, one of the changes this year is that cruisers have been reduced to 4 points. Now, with that, the Vexor's been picked an awful lot. So, I mean, what do you make of that, Brett? Is it the new utility ship to fill out those 4-point slots, or?
I think just for 4 points, it brings a huge amount of damage to the table with having the amount of drones that it does, because it can bring 2 heavies, 2 mediums, and 1 light in a full flight, or it can bring a flight of mediums. And it just applies a lot of utility that you can bring, because you've got those if it's in an armor team, it's got utility mids that I could bring, say target disruptors, paints, anything like that. ECM. It allows it to just fit into a middle role very well.
Yeah, especially for only 4 points as well. That's just an absolutely fantastic pickup there. Perhaps even almost as good as the Daredevil for 2 points. I would say the Vexor is definitely probably going to be one of the most popular ships for the tournament. If you've got those 4 points, well, you could just fill that with a Vexor. Now, I am being told we have a very detailed, highly professional graph to throw up now. And this is over the tournament. This is Nash, the patron saint of EVE NT. This is his stress. Now, as you can see, 5 days before, we're chilling. We're like about 1,000. We're okay. Not that much stress. But as it starts to approach, we get higher and higher. Now, 2 days before is a key point for Nash here. His stress is high. It is well over 3,000 here. But then, I don't know, maybe he has a few beers, he calms down, and we start to reduce. And he's like, I'm cool, I'm fine, I'm Nash, I'm really casual. I mean, I'm not worried at all. And Nash likes to put up this nice, united front. I am a calm professional. And then, of course, we start. And for anyone else who's not actually here, you've not been able to see that Nash has been running around the studio like mad all day today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just stressed out. But, I think so far things are going pretty well.
Absolutely,
yeah. So now, Reload, what can Nash do to reduce his stress?
Well, what he could use some remote rep logistics, so some remote beer giving. So that's definitely a good choice for Nash at this point. He can definitely lower the stress levels over here. So that's my personal take on how we can reduce it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one thing you can do, of course, is subscribe to the EVE NT TV stream, and that allows us to ply Nash with some beer, bring that stress level back down, and put together the best production that we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, we're going to move forward to the next match here, which coming up is Snuffed Out versus Hole Control. Now, Brett, during that last match, you followed me around with 2 sheets of paper being like, I have some stuff for this one, I want to talk. So, Brett, the floor is yours.
Well, Snuffed Out and Hole Control, they are both teams that came through our feeder round, so we have a little bit of experience of them. in this Alliance tournament kind of setting in this year's rules. So Snuffed Out played against Chaos Theory Dot, and this is one of the most entertaining matches ever that I did not get to watch. Snuffed Out brought a single Vindicator Oneros with Hurricane Fleet issues, Harbingers, Vengeance, 2 Vexes and a Hound. So it's kind of a Vindicator comp with some really strong Battlecruiser support, whereas Chaos Theory brought 2 Vindicators and a Neros, 2 Myrmidons, a Vexen Navy issue, Kitsune Griffin, and 2 Daredevils. So they're much more of a traditional kind of rush, Galente rush comp. Now, due to the dual Vindicator comp came in at 0, and due to the fact that one of the pilots did not warp in time, the team was forced to come at 0, so the Oneros was close and wasn't away, whereas the Snuffed Out team all came out at range. So, Ryload, what do you reckon happens when 2 Vindicators get on top of a single Vindicator?
Well, you would assume that the Vindicator would obviously melt under 2 Vindicators for the damage.
Nope, Snuffed Out won with 100 points to 0, meaning they did not lose a single ship. I am shocked how that happens and look forward to seeing Snuffed Out in the rest of the tournament. Whereas Hull Control beat Rogue Capel, and Rogue Capel is what some people say a really, really good team. They've got a lot of pedigree. They went through quite a few Alliance tournaments before, so it's kind of an upset that they lost to Hull Control at the start of the feeders. They did go through the Hell Bracket and are in the AT, proving how good of a team they are, but that result was pretty shocking.
Yeah, now, so let's talk a little bit about the teams themselves. So, Snuffed Out, of course, self-proclaimed bad guys and kings of low-sec. They know what they're doing. They've been in a few Alliance tournaments before. They've always kind of been middle of the road, though, haven't they, Reload?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've definitely brought, very traditional comps last tournament. So they brought the dual Typhoons, nothing crazy out of the blue. So I'll definitely, rank them as a pretty solid team. They could do some upsets on, larger teams. So they're definitely ones to watch out for. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then against them we have Hull Control. Now, Hull Control are a primarily German wormhole-based alliance. Unlike Hard Knocks, who just beat everyone by pure numbers, Hull Control like to beat people by just simply absorbing them into the Hull Control alliance. An interesting tactic, but it seems to be working so far for them. So, have we seen them before in tournaments, Brett?
No, they have not been in a previous Alliance tournament under this name. The pilots may have been different corps and played, but as Hull Control, we have not seen them.
Okay, so we have a reasonably experienced kind of middle-of-the-road team in Snuffed Out coming up against pretty new, but I mean, wormholers in general, in my opinion at least, tend to be perhaps sort of an average higher-level piloting skills. Would you say that's a fair assumption, Reload?
I mean, that's definitely a fair assumption because, wormholes, they have limited numbers, so every pilot counts, which is, a really big thing, especially in wormholes because of masses and how the game mechanics in general for wormholes. While low-sec is, obviously, I would say low-sec is more of a mix, there's quality and quantity, you've got people who are using like high-grade snakes, high-grade slaves, so obviously the quantity and the quality are a bit more mixed in low-sec, while wormholes are definitely for more quality type of pilots.
Yeah, I mean, I'd almost say that wormhole PvP, when 2 groups roll into a common hole, the mass limits that imposed there mean that you can only bring so many ships, so many pilots into that one system. So you have almost the closest to a tournament setup that you can really get in TQ. So I'm being told by the gremlins in my ear that we do have a ship class breakdown ready to throw up on screen with our fancy graphs. So as you can see, lots of words there. Reload, what do you make of all those words?
Well, right now, we can definitely see battle cruisers are king at this point. There's so many picks for battle cruisers right now. They're the top pick right there. And then next, you've got, Tech 1 cruisers. Tech 1 cruisers also really picked at this very point in time, as well as pirate frigates, the Daredevil, 2 points, you can't go wrong with them, as well as, battle cruisers, logistics as well. Logistics is not as picked as much as, other ships. I can see the command ships as well being picked pretty well. So there's a lot of, pretty standard ships being picked up, but also a few upsets as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we can see bombers being pretty favoured as well there, simply because, I mean, for 3 points, you can provide 500 DPS onto larger targets. They're a great comp to, or a great ship to put into any comp to kind of round out your just high damage and support. Of course, they are very fragile, so a lot of teams choosing to primary them first. So I'd probably say they're one of the highest killed ships in the tournament, but that's something we can maybe look at a little bit later. I'm going to quickly just get around the table, see who we think for this next match here. And we do have to be quick for this one. I'm going to go for my boys in wormholes. I'm going to go for Hull Control. Reload.
I'm going to go for Snuffbox in this one.
Snuff.
I'm going to go for Snuff Hours as
So
well.
2 for Snuff, 1 for Hold Control. We'll see if I can double up the smugness and get 2 for 2. And we're going to pass this to the boys in the commentary booth.